Presents department stores in Birmingham, Alabama. She was a great collector, and this is Nan Pizitz, not Mary Dodd, but Nan Pizitz. And this is Pizitz's basement, which is a little bit like Filene's basement. But then you know what it was like. But what I want you to notice is the way that he achieves motion in this picture. And he does it by arcs and semicircles and circles themselves, such as the way that her hand wraps around here, the way that her head is moving here, but more important are the sail. The place, you see the ways the circles
The dress rack.
and all of these sails.
What year was
Sorry
this?
you don't have this here.
What year did he make that?
What year is
Yes.
this? He did this in the late 30s. Oh, sorry. And another work he did at the same time, which is less well known, but which is exactly what I was talking about. This is because he found beauty in everything. And one thing he found was in the poverty, but also the shameful way in which the poor of Athens were being treated, because this picture was painted to Athens, and it's called City Dump. Many of you may have seen it. I asked him if it was based on the famous T.S. Eliot prelude, in which T.S. Eliot says, "The worlds revolve like ancient women gathering fuel in vacant lots." And it just seemed that was. He had been to New York where he had studied at the Art Students League, and he had made a lot of friends there. But when he got back to he had not had a good experience when he was growing up in LaGrange. He loved LaGrange, loved being in LaGrange, but he ended up going because his parents wanted him to. His father was a preacher, wanted him to go to school in Atlanta at Georgia Tech. Well, you know what happens when people go to Georgia Tech. He had a nervous breakdown. Speaking as a Georgia Bulldog. But anyway, so he returned home and he took a job in 5 Points, Alabama. Any of you know where that is? It's right across the border. Well, not right across the border, but near LaGrange. And he taught children art. He decided then that he could not continue, that he had to get better training. And he would do that outside of the South, in New York. So Lamar went to New York. Now there are other Southern artists, and the one thing that Lamar always said, that during the time when he did it, when he went to New York, if you wanted to be an artist, you had to leave the South. Because in the South, women painted china, men painted houses. And if you sort of look at this, it's true. So he came back to Birmingham, and he worked with artists such as Rella Rudolph, who I'm sure you've never heard of, but she was one of the first women to do a transcontinental flight. And
She was a pilot?
Sorry?
She was a pilot?
She was a rich woman.
Oh.
With access to a pilot. Unfortunately, she moved to Paris, and it was during a freezing winter. And you read about these things and you don't believe them, but this one is true. An iceberg, a field of ice fell from a building on her.
Oh.
And killed her.
Oh my heavens.
Wow.
Anyway, so you can see some of her works in California because she lived in California.
What's her name again?
Rella Rudolph.
Rudolph. Okay.
Rudolph, not
Yeah.
Randolph, but Rudolph.
Rudolph.
Like
From
R-U-D-O-L-P.
the red-nosed reindeer.
And I think there's one in, if you're in Augusta, Morris Museum, there's one. But anyway, Lamar left Birmingham And there's a famous editorial by James Saxon Childers. Any of you interested in journalism, if you are, James Saxon Childers was at the Birmingham News, and he eventually came back to Atlanta where he won the Pulitzer Prize. But a famous article which he wrote was about Lamar, and it was why I won't give him a good recommendation for his job in Georgia. And his reason was that Georgia's gain should not be Alabama's loss.
Oh my God.
Okay, interesting which he phrased that. But Lamar and Mary did come to Athens, Georgia, where an experiment was taking place. One that was also true for John Stuart Curry in Wisconsin, an artist in other places, and that was to bring artists in to teach students. And the artists were professional artists, and they didn't necessarily have degrees. Lamar had no degree. He used to say he had been to LaGrange College for Women, but that's because in order to be in our arts class, he mowed the grass. And did odd jobs around the college, and primarily mowed the grass. But anyway, when Lamar got here, he found a fairly large Southern university with an art department, and the art department was 3 people. One of them was in the home ec department. Another one was in the University of Georgia is a state school, as you all know, and this was someone who traveled around the state. And the third one was actually an artist who was actually with what they call the art department, but he was really teaching language. So Lamar said, this won't do. So he changed everything, and I won't go into it, but he changed everything and actually solidified the Department of Art at the University of Georgia, which started with 3 professors.
Wow.
And Lamar, and within 2 years, Lamar had turned it into a graduate program.
Wow.
And he was granting degrees, BFAs as well as MFAs, Master of Fine Arts. Today, the art department at the University of Georgia is 57 faculty members and almost 1,000, I think there's 1,000 now, majors. My question has always been, with Columbus and Georgia State, all these other schools in Georgia, and including the schools in Savannah, and what do we need with one more at Hughes School? Well, we do. Just take my word for it, we do, because there's a certain kind of way in which the arts are continued to be taught, and that is Lamar insisted that fine arts needed to be held up with the support of the creative arts, of the artisanal arts, of craft, if you will. And Lamar didn't necessarily believe that was a great difference between craft and between fine art. And he was mostly interested in fine art, but certainly interested in. At the top of Mount Parnassus is a painting, but right under it is drawing. And he believed in the aphorism that drawing is the mother of all the arts. And so Lamar, I hope that you've noticed, if you've been walking around the house, if you see anything that's by Lamar, he was a great draftsman, a really great draftsman. Over there I see. And I wanted to talk a little bit about Mary got sick, heart condition. She had to go to the hospital, and Lamar became friends with the head surgeon at Emory Hospital, and he invited Lamar to attend actual medical operations or surgery. I'm having difficulty thinking about this right now. That's right. It's happening later. And so Lamar was able to do such artists, such works as these. Notice that this is the result of a EKG. And so he used, just as the artists of the Renaissance did, then he would use these in the frame around the painting. You see the EKG. Notice something else about this. Lamar used to say he hated art historians. And he said they overanalyze. And I accused him once of being spiritual in his work. Look closely at this.
Do you see a cross?
Sure.
Have you been to Italy? Have you seen Mantegna's great painting of Christ?
Oh, wow.
Let's see.
Frame is beautiful.
This is a little bit, it's not quite as good as it should be, but in it you can see in the other interpretations, you can see the green masks over the heads. That's all.
Bill, is this part of the heart series?
This is the art.
That is it with the EKG and all that? Okay.
Yeah, there are only a few that are not in the Lagrange, because that series is in Lagrange.
That's right.
I think there's a photograph here of how. Well, there's another example of it. They're all in Lagrange, and even this one is in Lagrange. And, we're talking about spiritual and his interest in the spirit. This is reminiscent of so many pietas. And Lamar was a gentleman throughout his life, and he was reared as such in Lagrange. His father was a preacher. So he has these students during this time that he was involved with Lagrange, with the heart department, the heart department. And so he would take his students, he had 6 graduate students, and he would take them to North Georgia where they would work on plein air, out in the open. And one day he finished and he was on the way back, and they stopped at a fruit stand, and there was a man selling apples, and Lamar didn't have any money, so he had the watercolor which he had done, which is similar to one of these, the watercolors which he had done. He asked the man, he said, "Can I get a few of these apples and give you this watercolor?" And the man said, in typical North Georgia perfunctory, and immediately he said, "I reckon you would. These apples are 70 cents a piece." So Lamar did not have apples. Last year, Marsha asked me to talk to you about is his work. It's the Heart series, but also his work with NASA, in which he used many of the same ideas that he had earlier, and that was using the frames. This is one of his most famous works, and it was hung in Jimmy Carter's White House. And there it is. And so, what do you notice about this? If you look around here, do you see anything? This one is not an abstraction. You might think it is, but it's not. But you don't see abstractions. This is an abstract painting, and it's called Crucified Son, again using a religious notion. And also, he used gold leaf here, and elsewhere he used pigments or color, as well as composition that would be reminiscent of the Renaissance and even Baroque period in Italy and Spain. And he was able to go. Dr. Craver, I think his
Dr.
name is.
Dr.
Craver.
Mm-hmm. He's pretty famous.
And it was able to go into the surgical theater with him and follow him around. And Dr. Craver is the one who told them at LaGrange, said, hey, he did these in there, you ought to keep them here as a monument to Lamar. And so the art department at LaGrange is the Lamar Dodd Department of Art. It is at the University of Georgia as well. You have any questions? I mean,
So after the White House, where did this wonderful painting go?
well,
Art collection.
there is a collector.
Oh, I see.
And Lamar was not interested in selling his work so much, but this is a collector who had the money and the persuasive skill to get Lamar to give them up, which he did.
Where is the C.L. Moorhead collection? Where, I mean,
At the University of Georgia.
it is, but it's not shown, is it?
It's just Georgia Museum of Art.
But they don't have it out. Yeah,
But that's like all museums.
they just rotate them.
They wrote, yeah.
When
Right,
Bill was head of it, he kept a lot more pieces of Lamar's there
right.
than the current fellow, as I understand.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And LaGrange Museum is fabulous. I mean, it's a great building. It's a great place to see art. But I mean, they have all different artists there because did he bring Elaine de Kooning? Yeah, here. Yeah, and so there's an Elaine de Kooning and a Willem de Kooning all at the LaGrange Museum.
Yeah.
It's a great collection.
He was tied in with a lot of big names and a
Right.
lot of big artists,
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
And Jamie Wyeth was
Right.
part of the NASA group that went.
Right.
And the NASA group was interesting because they traveled the world.
He brought Frank Lloyd Wright here
Oh,
He did?
to study. We don't have an architecture school,
right.
and they brought him here to see a practicing architect because he was a practicing fine arts painter.
Right.
And so he brought Frank Lloyd Wright, but he was only here for a short period. But it's sort of fascinating who he did, all the artists
Right.
whom he did bring here.
Right.
Yeah. It was really amazing. And he did travel the world, and he was very well known in different places. And the NASA things were in the 60s, maybe? That was Jimmy Carter time, maybe?
So
Yeah,
they
he was-
were,
he
they
was-
were,
He
The
was,
State Department sent him.
yeah.
Oh.
And he was friends with the guy that was bald-headed. I can't think of his name.
Charlie Brown.
There's so many.
What was his name? He was a Secretary of State under Jimmy Carter, I think.
The one that, Russ?
Yeah, Rusk. Dean Rusk.
Dean Rusk.
Dean Rusk. Sorry, Dean Rusk. I didn't mean to.
That's her.
Did we're in Madison? We have the Stephen Thomas Museum. We've always heard that Lamar and Stephen had like they were competitors or had a kind of a not a great relationship. Is that true or?
I don't know specifically in that
Yeah.
case. I do know that while Lamar was one of the most cultured and truly a Renaissance man, he believed in himself.
Right.
That's a great
Yeah.
trait. I've got to ask this. Baptist, Methodist, what type of preacher?
Baptist.
Interesting.
Yeah, and he was a member of the First Baptist Church here. And Mother was a lifelong Presbyterian, but she changed to Baptist with him. But then later in life, she changed back to Presbyterian and went back to First Presbyterian here. So,
Do you feel like his legacy is what it
You know,
needs to be?
Somebody always asked that, and I was going to be more formal.
Right.
Until I had trouble getting there. But I had more formal. The first thing I was going to ask was that question. And
Right.
that was, because I lectured on Lamar, people would ask me, after he died in 1996, they would say, what do you think his legacy is going to be?
Right.
And will he be seen as an important artist? Well, I said, yes, because his work
Right.
is sufficient to meet anybody's
Right.
standards. And as it turns out, talking about this collector, he was able to get Lamar to sell him things, he certainly has a legacy in the works that are being dispersed as well, because this collector is also dispersing works
Right.
as well. So yes, and you know, I'm not afraid to tell you, I'm no longer the director of the museum. A painting such as this, which is similar to the one that's in the Metropolitan Museum of Art, that would sell, since of the period, then that would sell, or would have sold when Lamar died, at maybe $15,000,
Right.
$10,000 to $15,000.
Right.
Now it's probably 20, 25.
Right.
So they've accelerated. And watercolors by Lamar are $15,000,
Right.
$12,000 to $15,000. Yeah. So
I felt
yes.
like I had seen that before.
You haven't seen that painting?
I think I had seen that in,
You may have seen
in
it in the
that.
Metropolitan.
Well, that probably is.
It was bought with the HERD fund,
Okay.
which is a fund that they have to buy works that they can then send around to the rest of the United States.
Did he have a favorite contemporary artist that was a contemporary of his, and then who was his favorite? Did he have somebody that he, aspired to be like? What I mean, who was his favorite artist?
No, not particularly. He
No.
was-
He believed in himself,
He
Chris.
believed in himself.
You probably
But you
never
have
heard-
to study something. Most artists study other artists, right?
You probably never heard of him, but Franklin Watts
Okay.
was a professor in Philadelphia, and he also was a artist. And he traveled with Lamar when they went to the Soviet Union.
Okay.
And Lamar said the food was horrible. And so when he said that, he decided, since he couldn't speak to him in Russian, that he would draw what he wanted. And so he would draw an omelet, and he'd get an omelet.
They pay for it with the sketch, right?
But Franklin Watts, thought he would be smart and do one up on Lamar, so he drew a chicken. And the Russians brought him a chicken. So, yes, he had.
Yeah.
Live chicken.
Did he have a favorite work or a favorite series of work of his? Was there something that he just particularly was proud of, or that was like, this was his kind of favorite era or
Period.
something?
Well, since we're all historians here, yes, our bargain basement would be it. It belonged to the museum at the University of Georgia. And someone who has since then been imprisoned in Palm Beach.
Oh, he's in Palm Beach in prison?
He got out of jail in Palm Beach.
Oh, he did?
He taught the Lamar and the university in selling the work, which is unethical because it all would have been promised to the University of Georgia. But certainly, that was one of Lamar's favorite paintings.
So where is that? Yeah, where is it?
Bargain basement, it's in Augusta. Billy
At
Morris.
Mar, it's the one that they showed.
Not Augusta,
Mar.
yeah.
Yeah, Mars.
Yeah,
It
Mars.
is a good.
It's at the Mars.
So is this person a neighbor of Donald Trump?
Could have been a son.
I think your mother told me that story. I'm pretty sure she did.
Well, he was a bad dude. He was a bad dude.
I shouldn't talk about it because he's in prison, or he's out now. But while he was there, he had someone ghostwrite novels for him, and so he made a lot of money.
Well, his father was a furniture maker too, and he was sort of notorious too, because I used to buy a lot of, it was handmade furniture in England, beautiful, beautiful traditional furniture, but he was sort of sketchy too.
Do you mind sharing the last name? I'm from West Palm Beach, Florida.
Ramus, R-A-M-U-S,
What's his first name?
David.
David.
David Ramus.
That
And his
sounds like a
father's name, I don't
podcast.
remember his father's first name,
Oh, gosh.
but he was a furniture maker.
That
And
deer. This is scary.
The deer, they're hungry, they're waiting for their food out there.
Why do people always prey on artists? I mean, not always, but why do people prey on artists? And in the art world, why is there so much forgery and?
Well, Lamar's not a good example, but I'm working on a book with somebody else. And she was from Selma, Alabama. And her aunt was Claire Weaver Parrish, who worked with Tiffany, and whose husband bought a few acres, like 10,000, in Texas, and they were all producing oil. And she died in the early 20th century. Clara Weaver Parrish did, and she left all of that land to the Episcopal Church. To the Episcopal Church in Selma, Alabama, and to this day, they're making $200,000 a year off of
The oil wells.
But her niece, Ann Norton, grew up poor. She went to